So, taking a little break from all the war and fighting, tea ceremony becomes very famous during this period. You might remember that it was introduced during the Muromachi period. But Nobunaga and Hideyoshi loved the tea ceremony and they wanted to expand it. So they hired a tea master named Sen no Rikyu. He was a Zen priest, but he was also a tea master. So he was hired as the personal tea teacher, tea advisor of both Nobunaga and eventually Hideyoshi. And there was tea ceremony before, but Sen no Rikyu is credited with really developing the specific tea ceremony rules, making it an art form. Okay, so he dictates how many tatami straw mats you must have in your tea house, how many times you must turn the bowl before you serve it the tea. So all of this is like an art, and Sen no Rikyu is the one who developed the exact tea ceremony as it stands today. And Hideyoshi even had in Osaka Castle an all gold plated tea room that he used. And you can see, if you go to Osaka Castle today, you can see the replica of what it looked like, the gold plated tea room. He was a big fan of flashy things like this. So Hideyoshi and Sen no Rikyu were good friends. They were very close. Sen no Rikyu was like an unofficial confidant of Hideyoshi. And in 1587, Hideyoshi hosts a huge tea party in Kyoto, where the emperor, aristocrats, samurai, and even European traders and missionaries, this is before Christianity was banned, even the Portuguese were invited to partake in this ceremony. And Sen no Rikyu was the master of ceremonies. He basically handled all of it. But very interestingly enough, in 1591, Hideyoshi forces Sen no Rikyu to commit ritual suicide, seppuku. Okay, and Hideyoshi, remember, he has a temper. He's very paranoid. So it's believed that the two had an argument because Sen no Rikyu was getting very popular, and a lot of people would go see him. And Hideyoshi thought he was getting too big for his britches. He was getting a little full of himself. So they had an argument. Sen no Rikyu refuses to apologize, and Hideyoshi says, "Fine, then you are ordered to confinement, and you will commit ritual suicide tomorrow." So Sen no Rikyu, being an honorable man, does just that, and he commits suicide on Hideyoshi's orders. And it's said that even after that, Hideyoshi really regretted ordering Sen no Rikyu to commit suicide. But the fact that he made him commit ritual suicide is a big deal because Sen no Rikyu was not a samurai; he was a Zen priest, and ritual suicide is something that is reserved for the samurai class. So for Sen no Rikyu for Hideyoshi to make Sen no Rikyu commit ritual suicide shows that he did have respect for him at the end of the day, despite their differences. And Hideyoshi, from the beginning, regrets what he did. And even though Rikyu died, the tea ceremony in Japan became established, became organized, became unified, thanks to him and his achievements. Some comments on art. During the Azuchi-Momoyama period, you see a new genre of art come to place called Namban scrolls. These are images that were painted on sliding doors, screen doors in homes. And they're very interesting because it's a good way to see how the Japanese perceived the European traders who arrived to Japan in the 1500s. So, how did they view the Portuguese and the Dutch and the Europeans with their interesting clothing, right, and their unique, to the Japanese, they had never seen Westerners before. So it was very unique for them to see the costume and the dress and the hair and the faces, right? And it's interesting because the Namban scrolls show that the Portuguese brought with them to Japan slaves from Africa. So slaves from Africa were brought to Japan at this time. There was no slavery in Japan, but they were brought with the Portuguese to help them, unload cargo or load cargo or do menial tasks for them. There's two schools of art in the 1500s during the Azuchi-Momoyama period, and they're very important for you to learn about. The first one is called the Tulsa School of Art. And Tulsa School of Art is basically traditional Japanese Yamato-style painting. Okay, if you go back to the Heian period, remember Yamato-style painting, oblique view, pastel colors, right? No facial expressions. Tulsa School is basically that style of painting brought back 500 years later. And of course, because it's so traditionally Japanese, it was sponsored by the imperial court. So it's basically Yamato-style painting brought back. Yamato-style painting 2.0 per se. And it was sponsored by the imperial court. However, another style of art is called the Kano School of Art. And this is basically a combination of, remember the black and white Chinese style painting of Sesshu? It's basically that style of painting with color. Okay? So they combined Yamato style painting, the colors, the pastel colors, is combined with the style of the black and white paintings that we saw during the Muromachi period. Right? So it's a very different style from the Tosa school. It's basically the black and white paintings with color. Okay? And the reason this is called the Kano School of Art is because this type of art was practiced by the Kano family of painters, and they transferred their skills from generation to generation. Okay? And so Kano School of Art, it continues painting landscapes just like the black and white art of Zen, but it adds color to the painting. And it also, in addition to landscapes, they add in city scenes. So for the first time, you see what people lived like in Kyoto and other cities during the Azuchi-Momoyama period. And just like the Tosa School of Art, these Kano paintings were on sliding screen doors. So aristocrats or samurai families would have these beautiful Kano art pieces on their sliding doors in their mansions. And both Nobunaga and Hideyoshi decorated their castles and residences with Kano paintings drawn on sliding doors, as well as aristocrats and warrior families. So the Tosa school is more of the traditional Yamato style conservative painting, whereas the Kano school combines the black and white Yamato style, the black and white Zen style landscape paintings with color this time. And as I mentioned, you have city scenes as well here for the first time to see what the cities were like, all in color, of course. And these are very, very expensive. Originals can go for millions of dollars. Original Kano works of art. So this was Japanese art, but interestingly enough, during this period, the Portuguese and other Europeans who came to Japan, they bring Western style art to Japan. And some Japanese, especially converts to Christianity, experimented with Western oil painting, especially to paint Christian style paintings or paintings of the saints of Jesus Christ. And that's why this particular genre was mostly popular among Japanese converts to Christianity, so mostly in Kyushu. But these paintings from this period, from the early oil painting of the Azuchi-Momoyama period, was mostly destroyed when Christianity was banned in the 1580s by Hideyoshi. So they were all destroyed as relics, and unfortunately no surviving pieces from this early period of Western oil painting in Japan survive, because they were all destroyed. The Portuguese also brought a printing press to Japan. The first printing press was brought by the Portuguese, and some of the missionaries began learning Japanese so they could translate Japanese literature into Latin or Portuguese, like the Tale of the Heike was translated into Portuguese. They also translated from Portuguese to Japanese, like Aesop's Fables was translated into Japanese during this time. And of course, the Bible, Christian prayers and texts were translated into Japanese as well. But again, very hard to find them now because they were all destroyed after Hideyoshi banned Christianity in 1587.